Yesterday. All right, guys. So, yesterday we talked about vertex and axis of symmetry in vertex form and standard form. What we're going to be looking at today is the parabola that is in X.
You didn't put all your crap in here.
Dug to the depths of Kale's bag for that.
Okay, maybe I'll actually don't.
You're welcome. So, all right, guys. All right. So, what we're looking at first today is x-intercept form. Now, the reason we call it x-intercept form is the values of p and q are the values of x at the x-intercepts. That's why we call it x-intercept form. We did skip over two pieces we did skip over the increasing, decreasing. I mainly just want to look at x-intercepts. Now, the values of p and q are the x values of the x-intercepts. So p comma 0 and q comma 0 would be the x-intercept where it crosses the x-axis. The axis of symmetry is given to us by the equation x is equal to p plus q over 2. And the vertex is going to be the point. P plus q over 2, comma, f of p plus q over 2 would be the point, guys. A point of our vertex. Because once we find the values of p and q, we can plug them into these two equations here, and we get everything we need.
Is that p plus q?
P plus q over 2, yes. Mm-hmm. So, guys. So we're looking at this first one here, negative 2 times x plus 3 times x minus 1. We want to find the x-intercepts, the vertex, and the axis of symmetry. Now, before we start finding those, we need to state what the values of a, p, and q are. Now, our value of a for this function here would be negative 2. Mm-hmm. What would the value of p be? What would the value of p be?
Probably like
Negative
3, and it would be negative. Mm-hmm. So it would be negative because in the general form it's x minus p. Thank you. And the only way that we can go from x minus p to x plus 3 is that the value of p is negative. Because the negative and negative would give us a positive. Now the value of q for this here would be 1. Would it be positive or negative? Positive. Because x minus q to x minus 1, the signs line up, so the value is going to be positive 1. Vertex, axis of symmetry, x-intercepts. Now, in the general form, the vertex is the point p plus q over 2, comma, f of p plus q over 2. X-intercept is the point p, comma, 0 and q, comma, 0. All right. So, the two things we're going to need to calculate, one of them is going to be p plus q over 2. The other is going to be f of p plus q over 2. Now, before we do that, we can look at the x-intercepts, because the y value at the x-intercept is going to be 0. Because when we cross the x-axis, the value of y at that axis is 0. The entire x-axis, the y value is 0. Now, one of the x-intercepts is p comma 0. Well, what's the value of p?
-3.
So one of our x-intercepts is the point -3, 0. The other x-intercept, guys, focus, is q comma 0. Well, what's the value of q? So the other x-intercept is 1, 0. We just plugged in p and q there and got the x-intercepts. Instead of writing axis of symmetry out every single time, A of S, axis of symmetry. Now the next thing we need to calculate is P plus Q over 2. So what's the value of P?
7,000.
-3. Plus, what's the value of Q? So to find this P plus Q over 2, all we're doing is plugging in the value of P and Q and simplifying. Well, what's -3 plus 1, guys? -2 over 2. It would be -1. Now, we could have plugged -3 plus 1 over 2 into the calculator and let it do it for us, or we can do it by hand. Either way, we will get -1. So now we know what the value of P plus Q over 2 is, which means the x value of the vertex is -1. The axis of symmetry, x equals P plus Q over 2, means that x is equal to -1. Questions on this so far? So the only other thing we have to find is f of P plus Q over 2. So all that means is that we're going to take, because P plus Q over 2 is -1, we're looking at f of -1. So we're going to take -1 and plug it back into the function. So we'll have looking at the right problem, -2 times -1 plus 3 times -1 minus 1. So we took the original function for this here, -2 times x plus 3 times x plus minus 1, and plugged -1 in for x. Now at this point here, we can type that whole thing into the calculator. We can do -2 parentheses, -1, close parentheses, plus 3, close parentheses, parentheses, -1, close parentheses, minus 1, close parentheses. We can type that in and it will tell us what it is. If we did it by hand, -1 plus 3 is 2. -1 minus 1 is -2. Bless you. Then we can multiply. -2 times 2 is -4. -4 times 2 is 8. So the y value of the vertex is 8. And that's all that we're looking for. If we wanted to graph it, we would go -1, 8 for the vertex. Our x-intercepts would be the point -3, 0, 1, 0. And that there would be the graph with our axis of symmetry cutting it in half. Questions on how we found the vertex, x-intercepts, or axis of symmetry? We ready for the next one? Let's look at this one here. So looking at this here, what's the value of A? Negative 1/3. What's the value of P? It would be 4, but it would be positive. Because since it's x minus P, does match up with our x minus Q, so x minus P and x minus 4. P is 4. Q would be what? Negative 2. Because the only way to go from x minus Q to x plus 2 is if that value of Q is negative. Vertex. P plus Q over 2, comma, F of P plus Q over 2. Axis of symmetry, x is equal to, in the drill form, x is equal to P plus Q over 2. X intercepts. P comma 0 and Q comma 0. So since we do have the values of P and Q, one of our intercepts would be 4, 0, and the other would be negative 2, 0. Because we're just plugging in the values of P and Q. To find the x value of the vertex in our axis of symmetry, we need to do what? P plus Q over 2. So we'd have 4 plus negative 2 over 2. 4 plus negative 2 is what? 2. 2 divided by 2 is what? And we plug it in both spots for P plus Q over 2 is. This is the x value of the vertex in our axis of symmetry. So x equals 1 for our axis of symmetry, and we know that the x value of the vertex is 1. Now we need to find the y value of the vertex, and we can do that by plugging it back into the function. So f of 1 is going to be negative 1/3 times 1 minus 4 times 1 plus 2. Now, if we did this by hand, 1 minus 4 is negative 3. 1 plus 2 is 3. Now, negative 1/3 times negative 3, the negative and negative would make a 1/3 times 3 is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. So the y value of the vertex is 3. So the vertex is 1, 3. The axis of symmetry, x equals 1. And our x-intercepts are the points 4, 0, and negative 2, 0. Questions on this here? Huh? Yes, we will. All right, guys. I think we are good with one more because I think we've got the hang of this, yes? Which one of the last two do y'all want to look at?
Both of them. Yeah, both of them. Give me Abraham.
The bottom one? 7. How am I doing ABC? All right, guys. A, P, and Q. What's the value of A for this here? 1/4. What's the value of P? 6. Positive or negative? Positive. Q. And positive. It would be 2. Vertex. Axis of symmetry. and x-intercepts. Now the x-intercepts are p comma 0 and q comma 0. So one of them would be 6, 0, and the other is 2, 0. Now the first thing we really need to calculate is p plus q over 2. So p is 6, q is 2. 6 plus 2 is 8, and 8 divided by 2 is...
May I have your attention, please? It's now time to release the softball girls. It's now time to release the softball girls. Thank you.
Last thing we need to do is plug it in and simplify. Well, 4 minus 6 is negative 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. Now, how we multiply these, the order that we do it really doesn't matter. I would say negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 times 1/4 is negative 1. Brooklyn, did I give you this initiative?
She doesn't play softball,
Okay.
don't let her leave.
Questions on this here? Yes. Yes. No. I mean, if you want to, for the two behind you. For the what? For the p plus q over 2? Yeah, that's all it is. It's find the average between the two. That's really all it is. Because the vertex and the axis of symmetry are going to be between the two x-intercepts. So, the worksheet, 1 through 4, find the vertex and axis of symmetry. 5 through 8, use the axis of symmetry to determine which of the 4 graphs is associated with that problem. So, and you put A, B, C, or D. 9 through 10, find the vertex and axis of symmetry. And 13 through 15, find the vertex, axis of symmetry, and the x-intercepts. You have the rest of the class time to work on that.